Hello everybody. This video tutorial is the first part of the video tutorials for Lab 2. As such, it's going to assume that you have completed Lab 1, and if you have not, go back and please do that. Similarly, if you are having difficulties downloading the data from Blackboard or with the basic functionality of ArcMap, there are video tutorials and workbooks, practical workbooks available for download from Blackboard, so I advise you to go back and take a look at that. Okay, today we're working with both the data we used in Lab 1 and also the data from Lab 2, the new data. This new data comprises a more specific data set which looks at County Meath, and today we're going to be looking at some questions and some queries based around the use of heritage data, specifically the Sites and Monuments record, which records all the archaeological and historical sites in Ireland. This is downloadable online from www.archaeology.ie. Okay, the first thing we are going to do is add the data to our GIS. Clicking the Add button. Now sometimes it will automatically browse to where your data is stored, and more often it will not. Which means that you have to specifically direct it to where you have saved the information. You can see there that it's automatically opened up my Lab 1 data. I am going to take some of the data from this, specifically the Irish Counties data set, and I'm going to add that. And I'm also then going to browse to week 2, Lab 2 data, which I downloaded from Blackboard. And saved in a place. So here we can see these three data sets: one point data set, one line data set, and one polygon data set. So I'm going to add all this data to the GIS. Now, depending on what time of day you're doing this at, like I said in previous video tutorials, it can take quite some time. This is because UCD's network gets quite busy. One way of expediting this is to do your work in a lab computer in UCD. This will make things a lot quicker. Or if you prefer working from home, it can sometimes be quicker in the evenings when there's less people on the network. Okay, so the first bit of information which comes up is an unknown spatial reference tab. For the time being, we're just going to actually ignore this, and what this is saying is that some of the data which we are adding has a different spatial projection, has a different reference system to the underlying data which we're using. This happens quite often in GIS because data comes from different sources, and some of it will be projected according to the national grid coordinates, some of it will be projected according to global coordinates. Luckily for us within the GIS, we're able to deal with all this data at once. So we just click OK, and we'll see automatically that this data has been added to the area of Meath. So let's zoom in and take a closer look at this. You can see each one of these green dots represents part of the Sites and Monuments record. We also then have the River Boyne running through this landscape, and then we have a shapefile called Boyne WHS, which is the borders for the World Heritage Site at the Brú na Bóinne. So let's zoom in there and take a look at that a bit closer. Okay, great. So we can see that in the background we have our Irish Counties data set. If we turn that off, it will disappear. Then we have the Boyne World Heritage Site data set. Turn that off and it will disappear. Then we have the River Boyne data set. And then we have the Meath Sites and Monuments record dataset. Okay, so let's play around with the symbology a little bit and make this a bit more appealing. Let's start with Ireland counties, and we'll do exactly what we did in the last lab. We'll display each of the counties differently according to their colour, according to their name. So give it a different colour according to their name. Okay, so we're familiar enough with that. Let's shrink that down. We're going to do the same thing now for the World Heritage Site, except before we do that, we're going to take a look at its attributes and just see exactly how we can display this data. So we'll open the attribute table, and we'll see that there's only 2 polygons in this file, in this shapefile. We have an outer buffer zone and an inner core area. So we're going to give each one of these zones a different color the exact same way. Back into Symbology. Categories. Get the zone field up here, which is what we want, and then add values. Now the 2 default colors which this is the GIS has given these 2 areas really aren't very helpful. So we're going to change those, and we can change them just by clicking on it. So we'll start with the core area, and let's give that a red color. And then the buffer zone, and let's give that a kind of light green color to go with the red. Okay, and we can see there that the buffer zone has been given a green color and the core area has been given the red color. Now we're going to change the symbology of the River Boyne. Again, right click, Properties, symbology. We're happy with a single symbol. Let's click on it. Blue, nice color for a river. Let's make it a bit thicker. 2, and click OK, then apply, then OK. And we can see that the River Boyne has got larger there. So let's zoom out just a little bit and get a better impression of what we've done. Okay, now the SMRs tend to look quite crowded, so let's also change their symbology. Let's give it quite a neutral color. Let's give it a shade of grey, and let's shrink it down to a more manageable size. So let's say 2. This can actually probably make it quite small. Okay, and we can see that's turned into small dots now. So if we center this again, zoom out slightly, you can use the scroll bar on your mouse to zoom out, you can see our 4 data sets, Ireland counties, which we can turn on and off. We then have the Boyne World Heritage Site. We then have the River Boyne. And we have Meath Sites and Monuments Record. Okay. So we have the 3 main, the 3 primary vector data types in this GIS: points, lines, and then polygons.